Still waiting on Brian. Hopefully he jumps on here soon. He's in Finland. Um, who's out there? Is there anyone out there? Mm, Oh man,
Barely
you
made.
you barely made it. I had like 20 seconds there. I was just kind of like, what do I say? What do I do with my hands? Oh, well, welcome. Shoot, Patrick Clark, Brian Friend. Brian, you look like you're at. I know you're in Finland, but are you at an Airbnb at someone's house? Is that your hotel?
I am staying in. It's in Espoo, which is big city nearby.
You just cut out on me. Nothing. Nope. I blame Audrey for that. As soon as she said Brian's favorite harassing fan, he cut out. Nothing. Hmm. Maybe the battery's on it? It's not batteries. It probably just needs to recharge. That's right. We have a backup plan. Nothing yet. It's gotta love. All right. You gotta love. That's what happens when you go live. You gotta love it.
Live international, not at your own place, all this different stuff going on. So apologies there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in Espoo, Finland. I'm staying with Hannu. He's the guy who I've worked with him several times before, and he's the guy who invited me over here to be a part of the broadcast for the Turon Tumiopaiva that we did this past weekend in Turku. Been traveling around with him, seeing some different parts of the country, playing some different disc golf courses, dropping into some boxes. And so I'm just staying with him for 2 nights before heading back to the States.
Yeah. Well, it looks beautiful, and yeah. So what? I mean, you brought it up. I'm not going to pronounce it because you say it so much better than I can.
I had a lot of practice. That's pretty difficult. I always have this like rule with new languages where if there's 4 syllables or I feel like okay. 3 is great. Tumiopaiva is like 5 with a few blended ones. So I had to practice that quite a bit.
No, well, um, I watched a lot of the broadcasts because it was streamed live, and it was a really good broadcast. I mean, you and your I guess your co-host, she did awesome, and you did a. I mean, if you ever saw those Finnish names, if you look at the leaderboard, which I'll pull up here in a second, we can talk about some of the competition. I mean, yeah, but like Heinrich Hapalainen is like the easiest name you could say in Finnish. And
Yeah,
Koski.
the guys, Joona Koski, yeah, the guys that
Yeah,
make the games are little bit easier than some of the ones here. Some of them are okay. Sam
yeah,
Zerlik, I think most people could get that, but like
sure.
Alexi Hededanimi,
It just sounds like you have a
Hedaniemi,
stutter there.
like it's like yeah, it's they're challenging and it's not used to. But Mina Ayo is the woman that I did the broadcast with. She has done
Yes.
a lot of broadcasts for competitions in Finland over the last couple of years. She's lived all over the world. She's lived in New York City. She's lived in Cambodia. She's in Finland again now. So it's fun to that's part of the reason why I come here is to meet some different people, get some different experiences. So working with her was nice. And it's actually quite cool that you say that the broadcast was kind of well received or looked well done because actually Hanu and I were just watching some of it back, just kind of doing our own self critique of what we were able to put together. He was in charge of a lot of the production side of things, prepping the graphics, working with it on the technical side to make sure. Like I'm not sure if you saw the swimming event, but he spent a lot of time on Saturday hooking up all the rowers, programming them appropriately so that we could actually see the progress during the 2,500-meter row before the athletes swam. There he is, Alexi Hedetniemi. That's a tough one. And we only had, at the games, it's obviously a totally different thing, but there's a few hundred people working on the broadcast side of things there. here, including the commentators and Hanu, we were less than 10. I think we had 6 plus Hanu plus me and Mina. So there's 9 people doing everything from directing to producing to replays to graphics to camera work, all of it. And this is actually a really important thing and cool thing, because that's part of the reason why I'm doing this tour. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but that's part of it, is to see what's possible with less resources. And obviously there are things that are going to be missing relative to those super high level competitions and productions with a few people and a lower budget. But, as Sevan and I did last year at Zalos Games, as I kind of experimented with at Crash Crescendo, and as I'll be doing at several stops along the tour this off season, I do believe that we can get coverage of well-run competitions into the hands or eyes or whatever, or homes of people who want to watch that stuff, with a variety of different budgets available, with a variety of different resources available. And I was just speaking with some competition organizers from Marbella, Spain, and just talked to them. I said, I feel like if we have, we obviously need some cameras of some kind, and if you have a place to direct people to, and 1 or 2 people that are able to speak, very clearly about what's going on there, that you can do a lot with pretty little.
Yeah, it definitely showed. The lifting event was very impressive. I liked it had 2 different cameras, and it had 2 people on each camera, so you actually got to cover 4 different people. And it looked like you did a really good job of kind of splitting up the responsibility between her knowledge, your knowledge of that athlete, and it was really cool. I really like I said, I thought they did a great job with that.
Yeah, there are a few things, and obviously if you're a big fan of ours, or if you're a big fan of this sport, you'll see these over the course of several of the competitions that I'll be involved with this off season. But there are a few things I don't know. I heard this. Do you hear that clicking?
Yeah, I do hear it.
I don't know what it is, but what?
Yeah.
There are a few things that we will. No, it's not.
Sounds like a clock.
I don't know what it is.
It's Audrey tapping into your
probably
headphones.
It's her.
It's water dripping.
It's water dripping, so we'll just have to deal with it. Yeah. There are a few things that you'll see over the course of these competitions, if you're watching the broadcast or digesting it, that might not be traditional to what you're used to seeing at the biggest level of the sport in terms of production. One of those is that, we want to make a big emphasis to try to show as many of the athletes doing as many of the things as we can. There are obviously times to zoom in and watch something that's amazing, unique, different, maybe troublesome. But for the most part, having some strategies in place there's 5 people lifting, we want to see all 5 of them lift. If there's, 12 people running a short distance, we want to try to see as many of them as we can. Obviously, we want to see people finish. We want to see people hit successful lifts. We want to see the close races. And some of that is a little bit of planning, but also just kind of, really being adherent to what's going on the floor at the time. And whether it's from the audio side of it, even if there's only 3, maybe the test or workout is spreading out over the course of a distance, and there's a few people up at the front that are racing, and that's where the action is, I can still give some context and say, hey, these things are happening, 100 meters behind, 200 meters behind, this person's on lap 2, etc. But the other one is kind of the roles, and you sort of alluded to it there. Traditionally, in terms of broadcast, there's a play-by-play and there's a color commentator, and they have sort of specific or defined roles within a competition. This really, for me, happened last year with Derek in Dubai, is where we realized that there were certain traditional responsibilities of the play-by-play, which is him.
Shout out to Derek, by the way. Shout out to Derek.
Which he wasn't maybe going to be as able to do as I was going to do. And that's not of any fault of his own. There's probably not very many people that can look at a field of play of athletes in this sport from 100 or 200 or 300 feet away and identify them as quickly and readily as I can. It's something that I'm very good at being able to do. And we had a pretty removed perspective there. So usually at the end of a workout, the play-by-play guy is going to take over and say, here comes Clark, here comes Friend, blah, 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 across the finish line, whatever. But if you're not the person in the team that's easy to identify or to pronounce the names, then you can send that off to the other person to do. And so as I'm going around these competitions and doing different styles of broadcasting with different people and different groups and different teams in different parts of the world, we might blend some of those roles a little bit so that we can, because ultimately it's not about Nina or me. We're trying to get the information to you guys on behalf of the athletes in the competition. So we want to try to do that in the best way possible. So I think that it will work out well to have that kind of perspective of a little bit more flexibility and not forcing it into a system just because that's how it's traditionally been, but instead accommodating, the system or the circumstances that are before us.
Yeah. I mean, I think I texted you this earlier during the broadcast. It's like, it's been kind of fun from not just from an outsider perspective, just watching you evolve your style. And I think it's something that's continually evolve, especially like you said, you're not dealing with, we're all used to hearing Sean and Chase together on like the men's broadcast, or, Sean or Tommy. They've built that rapport with each other through years and years of doing broadcasts. Whereas you're kind of going out there, and every day every event you do, you're going to have someone new that you're going to have to adapt. Both of you are going to have to adapt your styles to. I think you've done a good job of doing that. And also you're getting a lot of experience under your belt. Because I feel like you have the skills to both do color and play-by-play. And you've done that when you brought Crash Crescendo. You essentially were doing both jobs. And it's something that I did when I was doing play-by-play for college basketball when I was working in college sports. And it takes a while to find that rhythm, the pace, and then also the research. You're doing a lot of those things. Obviously, you have the research part down pat, but then putting that out there for people to consume, it's a little bit different. And I think you've done a really good job of that in your pacing. And I think this is something cool that you're just going to continue to evolve, and we're all along for the journey, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot during the next 7 weeks.
Yeah, thanks, PC. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes oftentimes it'll even be within the competition, right? We'll learn some stuff on day one about each other, or about the flow, or about the resources that we do have, and try to improve as we go. But also, taking some of the lessons learned here and applying them to the next one, and continuing to do that. Because I have done some of this in the past, but it'll be a lot more this year or this next couple months than any time before.
All right, let's dive into the competition a little bit. Obviously, for most people, they're not going to recognize most of these names, but this is their opportunity to that's part of what the agenda is to bring these names out there, to let people know these competitions are out there, and to bring, just bring attention to them. So let's talk about, look at the men's field. Just go. You don't have to get into too much detail, but just kind of, recap the men's field for us here.
Well, this is probably the premier elite competition in Finland that happens every year right now. This is the 5th year that's happened. It started in 2019, 20, 21, 22, and then this year in 23. Joona Koski has been the programmer for it all 5 years. Obviously, he is the most well-known and successful, male CrossFitter from Finland. So his name and his programming obviously comes with a certain amount of appeal. Their ambition is to start to have a little bit of international presence here. There were 4 athletes that are not from Finland that were in the competition this time around. Actually, last year's winner was Adrian Moonweiler. He's obviously from Switzerland and a good friend of Joona's, but he was dealing with an injury. He was supposed to be here. He's dealing with an injury, so unable to make it. So there were 2 men and 2 women from international. And they're both actually, the guys are visible on this screen. So Mikko Liliorg, who finished 2nd overall in the competition, is from Estonia, which is just a short ferry ride across the sea away, but still a different country. And then Job Ooms down there in 9th place is from Germany. He may live here in Finland, but he's German nationality. He's got a German flag there. And the rest of the competitors in the men's side were from Finland. Ludvig Hansen is a name that you guys might recognize. He's been at semifinals the last 2 years. He was, I think, 8th or 9th place, something like that, at Strength and Depth 2 seasons ago. And then last season he was 25th in Berlin. But he really just hit a roadblock on Lagos rope climbs in the test event, or test number 6, a final day there that really, plummeted him down the leaderboard. And he had been flirting with being at one of the last guys who could possibly make it to the games previously. Really, he's an engineer. He works full time, 40 hours a week, trains full time. In addition to that, he's 32 years old and he's pursuing, trying to make it to the next level. But he won this competition in 2021. He came back and won it again here. He was probably the favorite to win, but it wasn't very easy. Mikko Lilliorg did a great job. And Mikko Lilliorg actually would have made semifinals this year too, if not for the crossover single under. So he was one of those athletes that just couldn't figure out that skill. And despite having a fitness base that was good enough to be there on the other tests during quarterfinals, he wasn't able to. He said he did that workout 8 times. And he just was having a hard time figuring it out. So he's quite good, and he's only 25. I think that he's a name, if there is any name on here that you really want to take a look at, is someone who could be an up-and-comer. He'll be probably in my top 150 men power rankings worldwide when I get around to doing that at some point in the next month or so.
It's a pretty impressive performance. 9 out of just he had one finish outside the top 10.
And you look at what some of these tests, think about what some of these tests were, like if you go back to the top there, the riding dirty was a bike ride, run, and a farmer's carry. It's a little bit of a different test. The bike ride was on the velodrome, so if you're not that used to riding around that, it could be a little different. The Turku Triplet Fiesta was a long workout, 20+ minute workout with a lot of running. So I'd say overall, maybe that's running is something that he should be trying to target, especially if he wants to compete at the semifinal. But Ground to Glory, you had the option to do snatches or clean and jerks from the floor with 155 pounds. He was the only man in the field who did snatches the entire time. They were paired with bar muscle ups and handstand walking, and he got first place in that workout. So barbell cycling and some gymnastics, expected gymnastics at this level, bar muscle up and handstand walking, but quite good at that. So pretty talented. He did second place in the swimming rowing workout. He won the heavy clean event, barbell bonanza, cleaned 165 kilos. He actually went for the 170 bar, which would have been a PR for him. And in front of the crowd, he was unable to hit it. And the survival sprint was an elimination style workout. He made it to the final round of that, as you can see there. And he had a no rep on the rope climb. And that dropped him from probably would have been. It would have been close. He would have been first or second along with Hansen, and then it dropped him down a couple spots. So he was quite good over the weekend, and he's a young guy here in Europe that I think is, worth having a little bit of awareness of.
Are there any other athletes in the men's field that kind of along the same line, like someone, an up and comer that people should keep an eye out on?
I mean, Anton Hassel competes. He'll be competing in Madrid on an elite team along with a couple other athletes from Finland. So he's well known here in Finland. I don't know about his top end potential internationally, but at least in the European circuit, I think people might know who he is. Mika Sola is a swimmer by trade. He says he's a fish on dry land, but he actually went and swam to cool down after every single test the entire weekend long at the pool nearby. But he's been fourth, second, and fourth 4 years he's competed here. So he's very good within Finland. I don't know if he has really ambitions to compete otherwise. And one guy that kind of I was pretty impressed by was Nico Raikkonen there in 6th place. Smaller guy. He did quite well in the endurance stuff there. You see a 6th, and then he won the running workout, the Circle Triplet Fiesta. Did have some gymnastics in it, but it was a lot of running with the sandbag uphill. I think he kind of hurt himself on the clean event. He had heavy tape on his knee the rest of the competition that may have prevented him from, possibly doing as well as he could have otherwise. But young guy as well that kind of caught my attention.
You mentioned the crowd. How was the crowd at this event?
It was excellent. I was really impressed with that because they had a massive turnout. All the stands were full. They had a VIP section that was full. The railings were 3-4 people deep for every workout test that was going on. They had an RX division for men and women as well. It was almost all from Finland. Actually, the RX division is just first come first serve. 40 men, 40 women could sign up, so you get a huge variance of skill level. But there were late Friday night, everyone came for the barbell workout. Early Saturday morning, everyone was at the pool. and everyone stayed late for the finale. So it was very well attended. The grounds I did it on, it's actually an American football field in
Oh,
Turku there.
really? Huh.
Yeah,
Okay. I was
I was quite
wondering that.
surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a soccer pitch, like one of those. But I mean, but some of the lines, I was just kind of like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
And they had the vendor village just there on the perimeter. They had a nice athlete area. They had the area for the crew. Everything was like within sight. There was space for everything, but it was also close enough. So it was just a really good, mini little festival feel. The vendor village was well represented by some Finnish brands, some good food options there. So everything about it was really well organized, and the crowd was extremely impressive.
Let's move on to the women's side. I think that pulled that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say similar to the men's side in terms of kind of the overall feel here. I mentioned that there were 2 international men. There were also 2 international women. They're both here on the first page. Franzi Hoger from Germany in 2nd place, and Or Cohen from Israel in 7th place. Or is a regular competitor in the Asian semifinals. Top 10 finish. She's had a top 10 finish there over in Asia before. She's very good with the barbell, very good with gymnastics, and she struggles with the longer stuff. I think through the first 6 tests, she had a first, a second, and then a last, and a second to last. So she's got she's like this good or bad, and then she's actually settled in a little bit at the end and finished 7th overall. It's good, and she's great, and her coach Ron Kafu is great too, and they were easy to talk to. They wanted to come up here to try something a little different. They knew that there'd be some programming that was out of her comfort zone, and there's no better place to kind of try that than in competition. They didn't feel like any stress to win or to podium. They were here just to put themselves in a new environment, and not only did they get what they wanted out of the competition side, but in terms of the same as me, man, just like they felt super welcomed here by the community. They didn't feel like an outsider in the athlete area. They were just like embraced by pretty much all the athletes speak English. So do they. So that was, not really too much of a barrier there, but they just felt, really, really welcome. And, I'm not surprised by that because like I said, this competition is a competition that wants to get some more international athletes out here in the next couple of years. Franzi is a semifinalist this past season. She had a little bit of a knee problem coming in, but she still did great. She still won the lifting event. She was pretty consistent across the board. And it wasn't like a super tight race at the top. Mirka Henriksen, I think she had 4th place on one of the workouts. Everything else was top 3. She had a couple wins. She competes at the games on CrossFit Porty the last couple of seasons. And they finished 7th a couple of years ago at the games. So, great. and so Mirka was she was ahead from the start, and basically stayed there the whole time. Franzi was kind of solidly in 2nd, and then Amelia Lepinen was also a games athlete. She's competed as a master. She's competed as an individual at the games. She's extremely, extremely good. She's won this competition before, and she was in a battle for that 3rd position for most of the weekend. That girl behind her, Natalia Ulias, she's only got 3 years of CrossFit experience, and you see she won the first workout. She PR'd her clean at 100 kilos during the competition, and she's been working a lot on her gymnastics. She did say there were a few things that are out of her kind of wheelhouse that didn't show up in this competition, like handstand push-ups and chest to bar pull-ups, but that doesn't mean she's not going to work on those. She did really well on the sprint. She got 2nd place on the sprint. That involved legless rope climbs and the seated legless rope climb, as well as regular rope climbs in different rounds. So she showed some proficiency on gymnastics in that workout that I think she's quite happy about. So I might say Franzi Hoger is definitely a name that's worth knowing for the next couple of years, and Natalia Ulias may be a kind of sneaky up and comer as well.
Yeah, I was obviously Amelia Lepinen, and she's the girlfriend or spouse of Koski, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and
partner, I think, is a
partner. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, she was she competed 2021 games as an indie, and then 2022, I think, didn't she win Masters 35 to 39?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think she won that year. I mean, that was a just a really tough field, that 35 to 39 division. I remember like China Cho was in that. There was like a few other like past games athletes, and I just remember her winning, and just like she was just the celebration she had. It was just, just watching her react at the finish line of that last event. But you mentioned
Amelia is a really, really like awesome person to be around.
Mm-hmm.
She's like one of those kind of infectious attitudes that like, you just can't help but have your spirits lifted when she's around, whether she's competing or just hanging out. She's a great person.
Anything else? I mean, obviously there was a lot of divisions there. Was there any teams at all? Was there a team division at all, or it was all individual competition?
No. Yep. I know that they may expand to have some other divisions in the future. I don't know necessarily what that would look like, but for now, I think that since the beginning, really, it's just been elite individuals and which you have to qualify for, and then RX individuals, which you can just sign up for.
Yeah. Which I think that's good. I mean, I think, especially in the off season, you see a lot more team competitions. As opposed to individual competitions. But I mean, the exception being Rogue and some of the bigger competitions where they have both divisions. But I think having an individual competition, especially this, I guess, the beginning of the off season, is pretty beneficial for especially a lot of international athletes who didn't really have the finish of their regular CrossFit season, less an idea if their season ended in semifinals. It gives them kind of their own games, or a kind of way to put an end to their season and then move on to the off season.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was a busy weekend because there's quite a few competitions. Pretty, I guess, when we talk about tiers of competition, this would be, they all seem like they're very similar. There was Fitland in Bogota, Colombia, that went on this weekend. Yep. The Tampa Bay games.
Program, that one in Colombia, programmed by HWPO. They had Jake Marconi and Josh Godinez were down there supporting that one.
Yeah, and that was actually won by some familiar names near the top, especially on the women's division.
Yeah, Ana Martinez was at the West semifinal this year. I think she's probably one of the top 2 or 3 females in Mexico. Sasha Nieves, probably the most recognizable name on this list, taking second place there. Maria Camila Quintero has been the top competitor in Colombia on the female side for a couple seasons. So yeah, definitely got some great representation from Mexico and then some South American countries.
Yeah, and our buddy Jake got to go down to South America. I'm sure he enjoyed that.
FBF, if he ever listens to this, which I'm sure he doesn't.
Yeah, he probably won't. But we're gonna get those shirts made at some point, and just send Jake one.
Friends of Brian Friend.
Yeah,
he will say something different, of course.
Something different. Ana Martinez is one of those athletes. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know if, like, I saw her semifinals. She always has a really big social media following, and she didn't have the greatest semifinal. And I don't know if she just is getting better, and then I look at someone like Sasha, and she struggled in semifinals, and I wouldn't think she would finish second in an event like this. I don't, so it's just kind of weird. I don't know, just seeing Sasha, who's a games athlete, 2 times game, once as an individual and once on a team. But I guess this is really good for Ana Martinez to beat someone.
Absolutely,
Sasha.
Yeah. I mean, you sign up for a competition like that, you don't necessarily know who's going to be there. That's a recognizable name around the world. Sasha Nieves for her accomplishments on an individual, and then obviously when you join up with Mayhem and have a part of one of their teams, you're going to have a ton of notoriety. So for someone like Ana to get a win over Sasha, regardless of I don't really know what happened there, but in order for her to win, but that's an incredible achievement for her.
Yeah, it looks like she had 2 event wins, 8 top 5 finishes, but and then Sasha, 2 event wins, 5 top 5 finishes. So looks like there might have been
Sasha
some there.
Yeah, and Sasha is what I think is kind of well known for being world class on certain things and for having her, kind of holes in her game as well. If, a couple of those showed up and Anna was just a little bit more consistent, then you can see that kind of like 50, 60 point margin of victory.
Yeah. And on the hombre side, I like the elite hombres.
Hombre.
Elite hombres. I've only there's a couple names here, but most of these names I'm not very familiar with. I'm I know that you're pretty in tune with the competition down South America. Any of these names stick out to you?
I don't really know any of the guys from Colombia there. So obviously this competition took place in Colombia, but those are I would maybe have to learn a little bit about them. A few of the guys from Brazil there, Vitor and Vinicius. I have seen those names before, and they compete quite regularly. I think Vitor has been Templo Ese. So I don't know if he's been on the team or if he's competed at individuals semifinal level, but Colombia sweeps the podium, I guess.
So Juan Tobon, age is 33 years old, so kind of on the older side there. I think I've seen Torres before. That name sounds familiar. I haven't seen him in person, just the name, but he's I think he doesn't even have an age in his profile. So, but anyways, but this is the fun part of the year. I think you can probably attest to this. Is like these competitions. I like looking back at some of these competitions that are going on and taking a look at the leaderboards, because this is how, when I was doing a little bit more analyzing and writing, this is how I would find the next up and comer, by looking at some of these competitions, see how they did in performance to the field. And someone like
maybe we should put a poll out and see if people want more writing from PC.
No. Why are you creating more work for me? You're creating more work. Stop it. I'm trying not to work.
Just like once a year or something.
Who knows? Maybe it's something that I'm really passionate about, which there really isn't.
Yeah, the PC puppy poll or something like that.
Oh, well, besides Finland, there's the Tampa Bay games. I don't know if I have the results for that. They had an individual division. I think Rose Scott won that competition, which is probably no big surprise there.
No, I think I saw something on Instagram that she had a pretty impressive lifting complex or something like that.
Imagine that. She is known for her lifting, as well as her lifting fails as well. But that seemed like it was a pretty cool event. It seemed like it was more of a convention, a fitness convention that happened to have a competition, because I know there was a lot of seminars and a lot of other stuff going on. I know Thunder Bros was there. They had a bunch of, it wasn't just CrossFit, it was like fitness in general. They had weightlifting, bodybuilding, just all types of cool stuff down there. So that's something that's, talking to Katie Gannon, she mentioned that something, she's from that area, I believe, or close to it. But it looks like that might be one of those competitions that kind of have on the radar as it grows as well. Especially them bringing in, just not CrossFit, but other forms of fitness to it as well. And then the last competition happened in the Asbury Park Summer Games, happened in New Jersey this weekend as well. So that, I don't know if it seemed like everything I've seen is more team competition. I don't know if there was an individual division at all, but I don't know if you heard anything different.
All I know is Paulina from Paper Street Coffee was competing there. That made me happy to see.
It was. So people that know Paulina, she if you ask Gabe, he would call her the CEO of Paper Street Coffee. She's a boss. Those who've gotten to meet her, she's such a pleasant person. But she was not only competing, but she was also working. So when she was done, she would head over to the Paper Street Coffee booth and and be a barista. So great job to her. Yeah, Odd is,
and she does it at all the competitions. She'll wake up at 4 a.m. Go work out, shower, show up with wet hair to the booth, and work all day and never complain. She's an incredible young woman.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I've had many times talked to her. She moved from Texas after college and moved out to Virginia, and she trains at Krypton. So, that's pretty cool. and she's obviously Paper Street. They've been a really big supporter of her, and Pauline is one of the reasons why we're actually in talks with her about possibly doing something for Rogue, hopefully. So they will be at Paper Street. We'll have a booth at the Rogue, so I'm really excited for them, and things are looking really good for Gabe. I know they just opened up a brick and mortar, their actually first store in New Jersey, so he's pretty excited about that. And I promised him at some point that I was going to go out there and visit him and the new location. But yeah, so I mean that's what I guess that's kind of recapping what happened this weekend. And I mean, on top of you hitting up a bunch of disc golf courses there in Finland.
Oh yeah, that was super fun. I knew we were gonna play the European Open Championship course there in Nokia, Finland. It's very close to Tampere, which is Hanu's hometown, and he told me we could pop over there on Sunday, play. We also went to the Finnish sauna there, which was a very cool experience, and then came back down here. But he likes to play disc golf as well. He hasn't played as much this season or this summer as he would like to. So we played a really challenging course in Turku, played that championship course, which actually was not as difficult as the one we played in Turku in Nokia. And then we played the first ever disc golf course here in Helsinki, which was crazy. It was like the whole course was on rocks, and that course is 30 years old. So 1983.
You said 83?
40 years old, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Who thought? I mean, who thought that? That's amazing that 40 years ago there was a disc golf course place of all places in Finland. But yeah, I mean,
Finland is one of the biggest disc golf countries in Europe. They have several world-class players from here.
Yeah. So close. I mean, and you fly back tomorrow evening?
Well, depends what time zone you're talking about, but yeah, I will be flying. I will start the trip when everyone in the States is sleeping. And I really won't finish that trip for like 48 hours. It's going to be quite hectic, but eventually I'll be in Utah for the Iron Games.
Yeah, and speaking of which, so are you going straight to Utah, or are you swinging by home?
I got a few because I added this trip last minute to Finland.
Yeah.
So, and it was had to kind of make it work cost wise. So I actually have a pretty long flight to Dallas. Then I have to backtrack to Charlotte, kind of do a change of equipment and gear there because that's be the only night that I'm home until October 2nd. So I'm going to drop a few things, pick up a few things, and then head over to Utah the next day. So that'll be, I mean, I'm going to lose track of the days, but I think that's Wednesday. I can get into Utah Wednesday, like midday, maybe.
Yeah. Competition starts Thursday. And then it's a Thursday through Saturday competition. The reason why they don't compete on Sunday is to recognize the Mormon, I guess, tradition of Sunday being a day of rest. So that's why the competition is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So
this competition also is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the reason that they did that is so that everyone could party hard on Saturday night and have a hangover Sunday instead of Monday.
That's amazing because that should be more like Wadapalooza needs to do that. Because there's nothing worse waking up that Monday, leaving Miami. It's like that's why I don't leave till Tuesday. Whenever I like the games, I don't. That's why I drove to the games. So that way I don't. Yeah, I have to worry about early flights because of the after party. But that final event.
I mean, look, the last test here was called the one before the after party.
Exactly. I saw that. I was like, that's great. That's great. I love the naming of the events. They did a really good job. So I don't know if Koski had a hand in that, but bravo him for if that is. But speaking of Utah, let's just, I don't know how much you've looked ahead, but I guess we can kind of look ahead here. But last we spoke, most of the divisions were pretty much settled. It's got elites in both men and women. A name that sticks out on the women, obviously, is Chloe Wilson, who I guess back-to-back years has just missed out competing at the games. And
in terms of that, it's she's been as close as anyone who hasn't made it the last couple seasons. And she's a very, very talented athlete, and probably she's got to be the favorite here, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so as well. But however, unless
someone has entered that I haven't seen yet.
No, last I checked, no, it's still, nothing really has changed. But there's some
And
names
this is
that
nice. Like this is nice. This is similar to the competition here in Finland, where there's an elite division with a couple names that are maybe recognizable, one or two, and then there's going to be women that emerge, but they're emerging from a field of 20. So you'll get to know a couple athletes over the course of that time. That would be, it's a lot harder to learn when there are 30, 40, 60, 80 athletes, as sometimes there are in those elite divisions, and everything kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So this would be actually a good chance to see some up and coming athletes potentially, and I'm expecting Ava George to be one of those.
Yeah. Hopefully she'll be there. Ava George, people don't know anything about Ava. She's a member of the Army Warrior Fitness team and a member of the Nevada National Guard. And their unit, she's in a military police unit. Her unit, kind of, is potentially going to be called up for potentially, hurricane duty, because there's a hurricane that's hitting the West Coast right now. So most of those units on the West Coast, they've been put on alert just in case, So hopefully, everyone, that there's no issue with the hurricanes, and hopefully she can make the competition. But right now, everything seems like it's on track. So, people don't know Ava. She's one of those up and comers. There's some other names on the list as well that people might know is Taylor Patterson. She competed at, I believe, Syndicate in last year and finished just outside the top 10. Stephanie here, she's actually the editor for the Buttery Bros. So whenever you see a lot of that work that goes out, Stephanie's the one that does all the editing for that. And then Sarah Vietz, she's actually won, I believe, the Iron Games a few times, and she's probably someone that's potential podium contender. I believe she just had a baby, and so this is maybe her first competition back. Michelle Weir is actually the sister of our someone that worked for us during the CrossFit Games, Heather Weir. So there's some names in here that are pretty, Melissa Kopke. She's
my favorite part about this?
What?
Is that people get to see how much you know about the athletes too.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That's only because they're all like from Utah and Vegas, and I'm pretty tuned in.
Half the stuff I know is only because PC tells me.
No, he's full of crap. He's full of crap. Well, even if that's true, you're going to learn a lot about these people. But like you said, especially about these women, when you go out there, the elite men, I'm not too familiar. I know who Drake Lewis is, obviously. And then we have our buddy Logan will be competing there. So I'm really happy to see him compete. I talked to him at the games, and he hasn't really toned down on training. He's been still doing a lot of training, both in Cookeville and in Colorado. So is there any other names that stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, Logan has ambitions to make it to the CrossFit Games, and whether that's within the realm of possibilities for him, I'm not sure, but he has like his mindset on that. What I like is that he's still creating some opportunities to get some competition experience, and this competition in particular is a good one for that, because they're going to do some stuff that is non-traditional, or that may only come up in a very specific circumstance, being the CrossFit Games type thing, or maybe in a qualifying stage. They have a very long workout called the Iron Cup. They have an obstacle course that'll be part of the set of tests there for the athletes. So, but besides for Logan, Stuart Jones, quite good, up towards the top of the list. There were a couple others. I saw Andres Surens, and let me scroll up. I was forgetting the other guy that I saw there that stood out when I was looking through. Oh, Drake Lewis.
Yeah.
So there's a few semifinal athletes that are going to be probably battling it out there at the top. And I'm expecting, with a relatively small field and a bunch of more or less unknown athletes, that 2 or 3 of those will kind of pop onto the radar, very similar to Liliu or Ulias that happened over here in Finland.
Yeah. Dr. Justin Lee, I guess if I was a doctor, I would probably have that listed in front of everything. But I thought that was kind of funny. But I guess if you pay that money, if he in fact is a real doctor, I would do the same thing. That would probably be my first name, or at least listed as my first name. But it looks like it's going to be a great competition. Obviously, you've talked about that. We know the organizers there. Something they've been doing for a while. I know the media team they've gathered is elite in terms of the photographers and content creators. They're bringing some of the best. FL Sports guy who normally works. He does most of the photography for the games. I mean, they're bringing in just some of the best to shoot. Enrique, who we worked with at the Morning Chalk Up, he's a really talented photographer. He'll be there. I heard a rumor.
And
that,
on the broadcast side, we're starting to. There's some things that are kind of coming into play in the last couple of weeks or days as well. So I'm not actually entirely sure of what the final product's going to be, but it to me is seeming like it's going to be even a little bit better than I had thought when I agreed to do it originally.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a rumor that Tommy Marquez is going to be there. So if that's cool, that'd be really cool for just
Thomas.
He's been there before.
Always
he's
great to see Thomas.
There. Of course, it's always a
Tommy.
Great
Tommy, if you're coming, bring your discs.
If anything, you probably scouted out a couple of those.
Haven't yet, but I will be.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure you will tonight. Not really much going on. I mean, I guess we can kind of transition to this. I mean, unless there's anything else you want to say about the Iron Games, Brian.
No, this is the first B.Friendly certified competition of the tour. The only reason that the one here in Finland wasn't is because I was so late notice. I didn't really have a chance to go through the process that I go through in order to put our name or my name as a stamp of approval on a competition. But in the case of the Iron Games, a month or two ago, I saw all the workouts. I saw the floor layouts. I went over those with those guys, kind of talked to them to get an understanding of why they do that, what they're targeting, how they go about finding athletes, making sure that the athletes are taken care of, trying to provide great opportunities for volunteers, judges, making it a meaningful and enjoyable weekend for the community and fans on site. And then obviously they have some ambitions to do some broadcasting of some degree as well. But primarily, it's to me is really if we're putting our name and our stamp on that, that's saying that this is a well-run competition that has an appropriate workout for the demographic that they're appealing to. They're well thought out workouts. The design and the floor layouts make sense and are safe, and that it should be hopefully easy to understand for anyone who's watching. So this one checks all those boxes from everything that we saw, and there will be other B.Friendly certified competitions this year, but this is the first one on our list in terms of chronologically, and I know they were excited about that, and so are we.
Yeah. Again, like I said, we both know the organizer, that they're great people. The programming done by Adrian Conway, who everyone's familiar with. Kind of just, I guess we can kind of use this portion to kind of just recap some news here. I think one of the things I want to bring to people's mind is, I guess it kind of goes with what the off season is. Madrid announced their roster of who's competing. So let me pull that up here.
Yeah, they put the roster out there. I think that there may still be some couple athletes that pop into the mix that aren't on this list. And of course, there's a chance that one or two of these don't show up for whatever reason. For example, Adrian Moonweiler didn't do this one because he had a little injury. So we'll see how he's able to manage that over the next month. But yeah, there's some good names there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Annika Greer, she competed in it last year, is one of her, I guess.
And barely missed the games this year.
Yeah,
same with Jackie.
Same with Jackie. I mean, you have Victoria Campos, who did compete at the games. Helga daughter, who's, I believe, has it been 8 games she competed before missing this year, or was it 9?
I think she's at 8 because there's only 12 athletes in the history of the CrossFit Games, male and female combined, that have 9 or more CrossFit Games appearances. I think she's one of the ones with 8.
Yeah. I mean, and then you go down that list of women. They're just a very good mixture of games veterans and younger athletes. I mean, someone like Emma Gardner, who people might know, but she's a former teen athlete out of the Comp Train camp, going all the way. She competed in the semifinals. I believe I don't think she was there.
And you see Orr Cohen there, who was over here. You see Mirka Henriksen, who usually competes as a team athlete that just won this competition. And then you have, Hannah Carlson, who had a great showing last year in Dubai. Andrea Solberg, who qualified through the queue last year for Rogue. Sylvia Garcia is one of the upcoming athletes in Spain. Linda Kiesman is probably the fittest woman in the Netherlands. Well, maybe Nika, but she usually competes on the team side. Norte Bleeker down there is probably the one of the second or third fittest from the Netherlands. So you get some athletes from all over Europe, variety of different experiences. You have
Jennifer Muir.
Few specialists in the field that will do some incredible stuff. Jennifer Muir obviously showing tremendous capacity with certain things at semifinals. Julia Blazowska from Poland is quite good with the barbell. Leah Soren is probably the best handstand walker in the world. So Emily Lundberg, who made the games this year for the first time with CrossFit OBA, and they did great there.
Yep.
So pretty good lineup on the women's side.
And then, I mean, and then it gets better if you look at the men's side.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, we know that worldwide there's more depth on the men's side, generally speaking. Will the Supernex should be at the top line there. It's ridiculous that he made the top 20 of the games and isn't. Lazar Jukic, Janikowski. So you got 3 guys from the top 20 at the games. Travis Mayer obviously is regularly in the top 20 at the games. Adrian Moonweiler didn't try to make the games this year, but if he shows up, he'll be good. You got the 2 best guys from Greece, in Katowice and Katulis. Luka Jukic will be there. He's looking. I mean, he needs to have a good competition to get some stuff back on track. He's got all the skills. He just needs to put them together when it matters. And I'm happy to see Simon Mantilla in the field.
Yeah,
he was supposed to be in Dubai last year competing. He had a little bit of a very serious personal situation come up that prevented him from doing so. So it's great that he's able to get back into the competitive environment. Kevin Jurs is the fittest guy from Estonia. Jeremy Reindeer's pretty good. Sometimes does team. Luka Vuniak is way down there. Victor Helsinghoff, Colin Bossard, like these guys should not be this low on this list. Quite frankly, they are both Victor Helsinghoff, Colin Bossard, and Luka Vuniak. I think we're all in the top 15 in Europe. Axel Lundgren usually does team competitions. Antoine Dumain's maybe the second or third best guy in France. Mikhail Wazalowski was at the games this year, and he's way too far down on this list as well. Yuri Maranchenko might be the fittest guy in Italy. Ben Fowler's coming over from Australia. That's really cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
So this is going to be, and Felix Rader, one of the better guys from Germany. This is going to be a great competition. There's going to be obviously some guys, world-class, top 10 guys in the world that are competing here, and they'll probably be, regularly in the top 3 of most of the tests. But there are some pretty cool tests here. They announced one today that's going to feature a new movement, an old movement with a new twist for most people, but of course the adaptive athletes. It is a lifting test, but there's a buy-in, and the buy-in is of jump roping. And the jump rope is of a variety that is usually only reserved for the adaptive divisions.
It is.
But and actually, Mike Halpin's been doing some research on this today. So if you are doing this competition, you have to do 50 of these as a buy-in before you can do a lift. And if you're doing this competition and you're like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm one of the strongest guys out there, but I've never used this thing. I don't have one of these. I can't get my hands on it. They are available for sale on RX Smart Gear. I think they're like 65 euros or something, and they're maybe 110 bucks if you're here in the States. Or I'm not in the States. If you're in the States,
you don't even know where you're at right now.
But anyway, so there's and I think that competitions are trying to do this more and more, to have some element of their competition that's new, that's different. It doesn't have to be anything super crazy. But, adaptive athletes for years and years have been figuring out a way to do this with one arm. So guys with 2 arms that are quite athletic and fit overall should be able to try out another variant of a common movement. And if you are strong, you need to be able to do that in order to prove it. So I also like that they announced, I've seen the workouts and I've been working with these guys on it for a couple months, but I was happy they announced this one early. I didn't know whether they would or not, but this is one of these things that we've talked about with the CrossFit Games. Like, if you're going to have something new, that's okay. But especially if it's something like this, where it could have a massive impact on the athlete's ability to perform the thing that is actually being scored, which is the weightlifting, give them a chance to test it. It's still going to be hard. It's still going to be new. It's still going to be tiring. You have to jump, pretty aggressively. And then you have to hold on pretty tight with that bar. I don't know. But Shield of DR, I wonder if that's Dominican Republic. Let me know if that's Dominican Republic or what that DR stands for.
Maybe he's a doctor as well.
Yeah, and then he's got the Sprite logo there. If he's a doctor,
maybe not a doctor.
Sprite, I don't know. But anyway, it's has nice prize money. I haven't seen the prize money. They typically do have some decent prize money there, though. I know the competition organizers, they invest a lot of time and resources and reach out to a lot of sponsors. This is a massive competition, by the way. I think there's close
Yes.
to, if not more than 3,000 total athletes competing.
Mhm.
There'll be several competition floors. I think there's an off-site something or other going on at some point. There's a bunch of vendors there. There's like stages for presentations. If you're in Spain at all or can make it over there, it's going to be a really cool environment. We're only broadcasting the elite stuff this year, that, you know, and I know that there were some people that were unsure about that, but you know, you got to start somewhere. It's a big deal to broadcast it all. It costs a lot of money, and but I'll be around as well at the competition. I want to try to go around, see some people, whatever. We'll bring a few. I won't have a ton of them, but we'll bring a few shirts over there. So if you are going to be in Spain and you want one, let me know, and I'll set it aside for you. I'm going to be picking those up in Chicago before I fly out there. So
Yeah. What they haven't released yet is the team's roster yet, which I think they're probably still waiting to get a final roster. But we do know that Noah and Chandler will be competing on a team. And in past years, they've had other teams there. I know in the past, Oslo had a team there, a version of their teams there. I think last year, Christoph and Mia Hesketh had a team together. Wasn't that supposed to be the Alex Smith, Danny Spiegel team? And I think they withdrew.
Yeah,
and
but
they
Christoph ended up having a pretty epic moment in the
Yes.
lifting workout over there anyway. So that was cool.
Mhm. So really cool competition. I really like that that test right there, especially like you said, announcing it early gives people time to practice that. So that way, when you show up for the day,
Well, the thing is that you can't practice this without the implement. It's kind of like when
Exactly.
the crit race showed up. It's not like you're just announcing, oh, we're gonna do box clears, and we have a huge volume of them, and you have a box, and you can just go to the gym literally that same day and start practicing and building some volume. No, unless you have one of those, which I don't know anyone who really has one of those that doesn't need to have one of those to do jump ropes.
Yeah.
You got to acquire it, and so you
Yeah.
know, maybe it takes you a week to get a hold of one, and you still have 2 weeks to practice. So
what you're
that's
saying,
why in those specific instances, and plus, you know, it's you know, so anyway, I think it's good that they released that one first.
stock in RX Smart Gear just went up.
It's been going up. It's been going up the past year, yeah, for sure.
I know,
And
exactly.
I do want to say, Dave has been working
Amazing.
his ass off. He's been going to competitions. He's been coaching elite athletes virtually around the world. He's been really grinding, and he's been doing this for a long time, and he's still out there putting in the hours, putting in the work. You know, there's other good jump ropes out there for sure, but he's in terms of product of the equipment. I mean, I have mine with me here on the road just in case, and also the expertise in the movement in terms of if you're just jump roping or if you're doing it as part of competitive fitness. I still have to think they're the best that it gets.
We have heard from some athletes on Sevon's podcast, and we can't. I've been trying to confirm this, but really, we have is really just the word of mouth. Is that Rogue has sent out invites to games athletes. We don't know who it went out to. Obviously, you know, I would assume that at least the top 10. I know in past years they've done the top 15, and then they've filled it in with the last 5 with results from the their qualifier. But we haven't really heard much about Rogue in terms of who's programming. I would assume maybe Spieler and Bridges, who've programmed it in the past. We don't know we really don't know much. Rogue's really good about posting stuff on their Instagram, and that's how the information gets out.
Well, and you know, Rogue, similarly to the CrossFit Games, they beat to their own drum. So they do things their own way, and they've had a lot of success doing that. We know there is a qualifier. We know many people have signed up for it. We've seen people with advertising on their social media that they're like competing in this thing with a lot of intention of trying to get onto that field. And that starts next week. I think that, you know, right, like I said, Rogue's going to do things their ways, but I think that they need to announce how many from the qualifier are making it before the qualifier starts, so that as we're following along, we know what we're looking at. I would say, 5 is the minimum that they're going to take. 10 is probably the maximum. But if you're looking at the game's roster this year, if you want to try to pull that up, PC, to put into perspective, if they did only invite 10, they're leaving out some pretty big names from that 11 through 15, including Justin Medeiros and Annie Thorsutter, the very, very pinnacle of those things. I would say all of the athletes in the 11 through 15 range from the games would increase the overall value of the Rogue Invitational by being there. San Quant, Will Morad are amongst the men. Bailey Martin, who I think it's always great to get some new people from different parts of the world, and Bailey Martin did quite well at the games. But to give another spotlight where people are like, okay, let me actually focus in on this guy a little bit. And then on the women's side, we can scroll down to like that area there, but you have Emily Rolfe, Emma Tall, Bethany Flores, Karen Freyova, Annie Thorsutter. I don't think anyone is going to be upset about seeing any of those women in the field if they were to get an invite. And like I said, you may get athletes, maybe. I don't know I don't think you're going to get athletes 6 through 10 in the qualifier that are of that caliber. But if there's a massive number of people that are signing up and they're looking at this and saying, damn, like we really have amazing participation. The qualifier is important to us and we want to keep people interested. So we're going to extend it to 10. So be it. Like I could understand that point of view too, but either way, one thing is for sure is that there's going to be I think a pretty robust qualifier next week for the Rogue Invitational, and obviously once the Rogue Invitational arrives at the end of October, it's going to be a star-studded field.
I'm kind of torn on this. Like, I like that it's a smaller field of 20 athletes, so basically you're going 2 heats, men and women. But at the same time, like, man, maybe they just expand it. They invite 15 and then they let 10 from the qualifiers, but then of course you that'd be 25 and you wouldn't have a heat of just 5 people. And I don't know. I think 2 heats is the way to go, especially with the lead, and it is the lead. So maybe you keep it at 5 because, it doesn't dilute the product, I guess, because if you expand it to 10, not saying that person that comes in 10th might be someone that just finishes dead last in every event. I don't know, kind of torn either way, but
here's the thing. Typically at the Rogue Invitational, in the years that they've had 5 qualifiers and 15 invites, there are 1 or 2 athletes total between the 5 qualifiers on the men and women's side that are able to finish in the top 10. What Chandler Smith did last year, taking 2nd overall, was rare. Jorge Fernandez was the next best finisher at 13th. I'm just doing this off my head, so if I get it wrong, I apologize. And then I think Olivia Kerstetter, she was like 16th. Well, Manya Nagonis was either 12th or 13th. So there was only 1 in the top 10. It was a super outlier of Chandler Smith, and he's a super outlier by his performance, but also because he's a games athlete. He didn't make he didn't make the games last year for a reason that didn't necessarily have to do with the fitness thing. So if you do dilute the field a little bit with more people from the qualifier, then you're going to, it's going to be a little bit more clear cut in terms of some tiers within the competition, most likely. However, maybe some of those people that are 11 through 15 sign up for the qualifier if they don't get an invite.
Yeah.
And if they did, that would be terrible for them because they should be resting right now.
All the athletes I've talked to since the games, most of them have the Rogue Invitational circled, whether they're in those qualifying spots or doing the qualifier as well, or the invite spots, and also doing the qualifier as well. Another competition that made an announcement last week was Dubai. Let me pull that up. Hold on a second.
Dubai Fitness Championships.
Yeah,
I'll be in Dubai this year doing the broadcast again with Derek once again. And they've decided to do invite only. We announced this on B.Friendly the week of the games. They announced it on some stuff on their channel on Instagram the week of or after the games. I think during the games they put a post up solidifying the dates. They're in early December. They're going to invite. They're sending out the invites this week. I think they're going to invite some athletes from that did well at the competition last year, as they usually do. They always have kind of legacy athletes, so they'll invite some athletes who are regulars at Dubai, people who've been there in the past and have consistently been, supportive of what they do. And then they also are always looking for some new blood. We've talked about many times how they have had athletes like Matt Fraser, Sarah Sigmazar, Laura Horvath. They're early in their careers, in some cases before they ever went to the CrossFit Games, like Laura Horvath, and that they were doing well, podium or winning in those competitions. So they'll, the invite list is not like cut and dry for Dubai, but it is, they do give a lot of thought to it. They do like to have some intention with who they invite, and athletes can be on the lookout, for some of those first round of invites, at least going out pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up that list of names, obviously Horvath, but the name that always sticks out to me is like Karen Freyova, and then also Gabby. Gabby pretty much like cut her teeth in terms of being a competitor that she's at Dubai. If you watch her ascension, as an athlete to the elite athlete that she is now, it pretty much started at Dubai. And then it's always a fun one because I think a couple of years ago we got to see Tola compete as an individual. It was the first competition Ricky competed at when he got his suspension was over. That was
that's a great example. And I know that there were some people that weren't happy about that.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, he served his time.
Mm-hmm.
He was cleared to compete, and you have to keep in mind that very much like a Rogue in the CrossFit Games, Dubai is its own entity. It is. And they kind of they exist for a different person or for a different reason than many of the other competitions. But they do provide one of the best earning potentials for athletes. They provide a really cool experience. If you're ever able to get there as a fan, there's usually not that many fans there. You can get some opportunity to meet some of the athletes, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Really.
And they put a broadcast on. People can always watch it. It may not be the perfect competition in certain regards, but it is a pretty special one. And I know that there are athletes who are, interested in going there, excited to go compete there. And, I think there will be some invites this year too, that are a little bit, maybe not the ones you're necessarily expecting. Of course, we'll have to see if the athletes decide to show up, but, it was, one way or another, it's going to be a very high level competition. A lot of prize money on the line, very competitive field of athletes, mostly, and a lot of international, because they'll maybe have one or two from the UAE. There may be some from other parts of the world that live in the UAE. And then, but I know they're trying to get athletes from different parts of the world, Brazil, Australia, Canada. So he's climbing a lot of stairs in Dubai. Wow.
Oh, man. That was, at least I can brag about that. It's like when I tell people that I climbed up the Burj Khalifa, like 50 pounds of camera gear, people don't believe me, but then I show them pictures. I remember walking up there and I went through the back like emergency door, and you guys are waiting for everyone to come through the front. I remember walking in and you were there, and you just like, you just laughed at me because I was all hot and sweaty and out of breath. And you were like live streaming it. It was, yeah. I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm excited for Dubai. It's back at the tennis stadium this year, and that whole area is really cool because the hotel's right there. The tennis stadium's connected to it. A great breakfast. I mean, that breakfast at the hotel is amazing. And then right next to it is the Irish Village, is it Irish?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like
that's what they call it there.
Yeah, the Irish Village. So it's like a little shopping. It's a bunch of restaurants that have Irish pubs, and it's just really cool. It's just a cool thing to kind of unwind. I've been there 2 years in a row, and I just always enjoy it because, again, like you said, it's very intimate. The athletes are because there's not that many fans. They're just accessible. They walk around,
and they usually have structured their competition usually a little differently, where they're not competing from morning to night.
Yes,
they have the morning off, and they maybe start in the mid-afternoon at 3-4 o'clock, and they'll go till 9 o'clock. So they're they're doing 3 workouts in a 6-hour window. Well, they should often do that in training anyway.
Yeah.
And then they have 15 hours to recover or something like that. 18 hours to sleep and recover and have breakfast and whatever. So it's not like a hugely stressful competition for the volunteers or the judges or the athletes or the broadcaster or whatever. And then as a result of that, I think what you get is when it's go time on all of those levels, from athlete to volunteer to broadcast, whatever, that you get a high quality, because people aren't dragging by the fourth day because they've had 15-hour days and they're getting 4 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah. And it seems like it's more
fans can go, especially if you're coming to visit, you can go around and do some stuff in the city. You can go to the mall, you can go ski at the mall, whatever you want to do, zip line through the city, go out into the desert and do some different stuff while you're there. Costly to get there for sure, but if you can afford it, it's a really unique experience.
Yeah. Because once you're there, hotels are usually, you can find hotels pretty relatively cheap, comparable to the US, like around $100 a night and stuff like that. But it's just really cool. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, we're kind of seeing it this season, but I think it's going to hit athletes more next year when Wadapalooza West Coast is brought up, is out. But there's a lot of off-season competitions, elite ones. I mean, just in December alone, or right around Dubai, we have Down Under, Dubai, there's the Fit Fest, which we're still
Masters
waiting on. Masters Legends, just a lot of, I mean, that's coming, during the holidays.
Three of those are the exact same weekend. I'm not actually that excited about that in general, because I think it's going to dilute the attention that each of those ones deserves. Yeah. I think this is a major area that CrossFit Games team needs to kind of take the lead on here. And one of the best things they can do is tell us what's the plan for next year, because there are a lot of people that run a lot of competitions that are already starting to plan for next season. And let me just throw an example out there for you guys. Next year, the Olympics are happening. They're happening from middle July to early August. That's when the CrossFit Games usually happens. Will the CrossFit Games team take that into account and plan the season differently? There's already a lot of talks about what the season could potentially look like next year, being differently for several different reasons.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for example, that they decide to push it to late August. Well, suddenly that staking the claim of late September for Wadapalooza SoCal doesn't look so good, because if the games is taking place in August 21st to 7th or something like that, and a month later is that, I don't see very many games athletes showing up to that. It wouldn't make any sense to. It's quite frankly irresponsible to. Now, on the flip side, if they move it to beginning of July, and by the way, they might not move it at all, but if they move it to the beginning of July, suddenly that opens up an extra month of competition opportunity, for it being July 10th through August 10th, that usually no one would really schedule anything during, because everyone's concerned about the CrossFit Games, and the last thing you want to do is try to compete with the CrossFit Games. But maybe there's some people out there that are saying, man, August 1st, that first week of August is the perfect time for our competition for whatever reason. And we're never able to have it because the games is always at that time. So we always just go to it at a time that's a little bit less convenient for our demographic of athletes, fans, whatever. Well, if that, some CrossFit Games, let us know what's going on next year, because there's a lot of people that are waiting on you to make decisions about what they can do from a planning perspective. And then, additionally, obviously, I think there can be some integration of some of the off-season events with CrossFit. They've talked about or alluded to the possibility of that when it comes to worldwide rank and strength of field. So I think CrossFit Games can hopefully take some initiative in terms of calendar and coordination with some of these other events to, make all of those logistics a little bit more smooth for everyone.
I know the PFA is really pushing for that as well. I was able to be at their PFA meeting the day after the games. But that was one of the points of contention, was what the season looks like. Obviously, the athletes want to they want it to be a certain way. They want more earning potential. For those who watched Make Wads or Coffee Pods, is it the Make Wads Great Again podcast with Danny Spiegel? She brought up that was her main thing. It's like she liked sanctional because it was more opportunities to make money. And I think overall athletes, that's what they want. What they need is more structure. And I think, like you said, CrossFit has to be the leaders in creating that structure for them.
Well, we shall see. But yes, I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of people looking to CrossFit, especially now that Dave's back, and Dave
Mhm.
seems to be taking a little bit of an interest in learning more about what's going on outside of the CrossFit Games team, as well as getting back up to speed on everything that is going on within them. And hopefully that's the case.
Yeah. Is there any other news out there that I can think of, or anything? I mean, I know you've been busy, but is there anything worth talking about, or is there anything in the chat you guys want to know? Just let us know before we sign off here.
I don't know. I mean, it is strange, being in Europe with the time zones quite different over here. It's pretty, it's pretty close actually to Russia, so it's like Eastern Europe, even though it's mostly considered to be north.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I'm very involved here. So this last week, like you learned a little bit about Rogue Invitational stuff that I didn't know or hadn't been aware of, but that's okay. That's part of the reason why we have each other.
That's what I'm here for. You go on the road, I'll just stay here with the dogs. And I started shooting again at college. The college sports season picked back up with soccer this past weekend, so it was good for me to kind of get behind a camera and shoot a little bit, and then catch up with a lot of work from B.Friendly, from a manager side, just working off a lot of momentum from athletes from the games, trying to find them sponsorships. It's going to be a cool year. I'm looking forward to, especially from B.Friendly. We have a lot. We say it every time, but it's true. We have a lot of cool stuff planned. Obviously, Brian's on the road. We're talking about our coverage at Rogue and what that might look at. We have some potential pretty cool stuff on the way. We have some, and then we're talking about some merch that we have. So be on the lookout for some new merch. Speaking of merch, if you haven't or aren't, obviously you can support us on Patreon. We added 3 tiers, and one of our tiers it's the highest tier, is we're going to have an exclusive t-shirt made for those people in that tier. So, it's just going to be exclusive to those members at that tier. You'll be able to wear that. So Brian and us, the whole crew, can identify you as being one of our, I guess we called that tier best friends, but yeah, definitely if you aren't a supporter now, please consider supporting us there. If you can't support us on Patreon, definitely support us on all our social media channels, including Instagram, and then obviously our YouTube page as well. So again, thanks for everything that everyone does for us, and want to be able to do it, and you're the reason why we continue on doing it.
Yep. Just while I'm on the road, I'm going to try to do one of these from every location I go to. Well, I think it'll usually be after the competition, if there's a competition going on there, or towards the end of the visit, so I can kind of fill you guys in on what I'm learning. In some cases, it'll be very competition specific. In others, it'll be more community and just like experiencing CrossFit in different parts of the world. I am going to bring some shirts to Europe. If you know that you want a shirt, I'll have. I don't know how many, but I have a limited number that are available. So if you know that you want one, send me a message on Instagram. I'll keep track of them. I'll have a few tie-dye shirts, and we'll have, but those will be with me in person, and I'll have a few of our core collection shirts. So let me know on Instagram sooner than later if you're going to be. I'll have them starting in Spain. Already have a few people in Sweden who've requested a couple. If I still have any left, I'll bring them to Norway, and we'll see from there. But primarily, those are for Europe because it's a lot more difficult to get them. The ones that I actually will have on hand with me. Eventually, we'd love to have more easy and affordable ways for you guys to get them over there. But for now, I'm going to just bring a few that we do have. The Sherpa Works is providing for us to bring to Europe. So
shout out to
and then,
Sherpa Works.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to do a little writing. So I'll be always documenting all my workouts on B.Friendly Fitness. Right now it's August Friendly WODs. I'm trying to hold myself accountable to get some workouts in while I'm on the road. And I know that some of you guys like to do some of them. So if that's ever you, let us know, or let me know that you're doing them too. And then, easiest way to kind of keep up to date with what we're doing is probably to sign up for our newsletter. It only comes out once a week on Fridays. Teddy Williams has been a massive help with us in terms of hopefully creating something that's, similar to our website, easy to follow, easy to understand, one place where you can kind of take a look, see what we did throughout the week, and catch up on anything that you missed or that's interesting to you. And then lastly, we should have updated worldwide rankings for the men and women all time. Not worldwide rankings. These are updated all-time rankings. So I've written some stuff about that. Did put a lot of thought into it. We'll have those articles come out, and we'll probably do a show just kind of specifically dedicated to that in the next week or two as well.
Yeah, I think right now we're scheduling, unless you want to change it, is that the worldwide, those all-time rankings will probably come out Thursday and Friday this week. So
yeah, I think that's good, because then maybe we'll post Iron Games. We can work on those. We can do that show.
Yeah, sounds good. Also, hey, shout out to we didn't do a giveaway this show. Kind of caught up on me, so sorry, no giveaway this time around. But speaking of good giveaways,
what he means is I didn't give him a lot of heads up for it.
I don't know. I'm like looking around. Maybe I could give away a pen or something, or but we want to thank Wad Zombie for sponsoring our last giveaway of the Alex Kazan card. It's been really fun because, as you know, me, Brian, and Tyler, we've been helping Nick out with the collectible cards, and the roster seems like it's expanding every day in terms of athletes that want cards. So we're pretty pumped about that. And Tyler's been doing some great stuff in terms of turning around the design. Brian, just doing great stuff, and it's just really cool. We've been seeing some of the mock-ups of some of the athletes we have up. So, again, I would subscribe to the Mint Trading Card Instagram to see those those upcoming releases. I think we'll probably have something here really too. His next drop should be coming out really shortly, hopefully here in the next week or two, the next card. So you're gonna like this one. It's a big deal. So yeah, so shout out to Wad Zombie and Mint Trading Cards.
What do you think? Is that good for today?
I think that's good. You just, I don't know. It's like still daylight there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's almost 9 p.m., but it's we're pretty far north, so it'll stay like for a couple more hours. So
yeah. Have you seen the Northern Lights yet? Do you get them there?
Don't know, but haven't seen them. I haven't really looked either.
Fair enough. I think being in because you're in Helsinki, aren't you? Or
yeah, this is the southernmost part of Finland. So you go up to the north part, which is called Lapland. That's like the territory up there. You probably have a much better chance to see them.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh, before we go, someone put up, I don't know if you saw, they put up their Colton Mertens rookie card up on eBay. And at the highest bid's like at $60 now.
I know it started at $1 and it's gone up probably to $60. That's pretty cool.
21 bids
up there.
21 bids. Yeah, 21 bids on that. So that's great.
I'm just kidding. I'm never selling that.
No, I just thought that was really cool. It's like, they're, obviously being a card collector, I think that was really cool. And just to see that there, and then, it's a very rare card. I think Wad Zombie's thinking about, making not another run of those cards because it's already passed, but doing updated cards for Colton, which he definitely deserves. But no, that's all I got. Again, thanks for all the support. Patreon, like, subscribe. We appreciate everyone being, coming on. So next week we'll.
Just one other thing, PC.
I
just put up on the Instagram there, but that Turun Tumiopaiva that I just did, they clipped all the events individually. And if you follow the link in my bio there or on their bio, you can watch them individually if you want to. There's RX competition that's in Finnish from the floor announcers. It's not going to be that meaningful to most of you. And then the elite stuff is there at the end. And if there are people who are like really, really interested in doing this, I'm totally open to feedback on that. If you want to let me know kind of whether it's about the production of what you were able to see and what you couldn't see or what you wanted to see. If you think that from a commentator's perspective, there's any advice, feedback, good or bad, you won't hurt my feelings. There might be stuff you don't know, like the resources we had available, whatever. But if you do watch that, you can first of all learn about a couple new athletes. There were some pretty impressive performances. And if you want to send me any feedback on that regard, I'll read all of it and take it seriously and try to implement for the next one if it needs to be improved, or the stuff that you guys like, try to keep it going.
Yeah, we can't cover everything, and sometimes it takes those people in that area, boots on ground, to kind of let us know who to look for, and maybe give us some details. So yeah, but cool. Well, Brian, yeah, I guess you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Safe travels tomorrow at some point, and then I'm not going to be there, unfortunately, for Iron Games, so you get the whole room to yourself, and you can actually get decent night's sleep because you don't have to hear me snore.
I was sad to not see you during the day. I'm not sad to not see you at the night.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have my fantasy football draft that Saturday, and yeah, and then some other things
Okay,
going
well,
on that weekend. But
draft Travis Pagent for Savon's sake.
I actually need to. I have something for. I'm sending to Sevon actually, so I actually need to get his address. But anyways, yeah, but cool. Well,
It's
great.
like one king of the hill or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. One king of the hill. It just in
One
just California.
CEO drive.
CEO. Yeah, you don't have to put Sevon. You just put CEO and then one king of the hill. Yeah, sounds right. But now he's been crushing it. It was great seeing you on the show. His show the other day. But cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's all we got from Finland and from St. Louis. And as always, stay friendly, our friends.